Well, hello, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. We are here at the Adventures of the Heart, building wisdom through experience. And we love bringing everybody here to have an awesome, wonderful, heartfelt experience. And today I'm here with my co-host, Velyn Hawkins. And
Hi.
also, we have a special guest here that's going to be joining me who works with heart virtues. And today we have Sarah Rockwell who's going to be joining in on what heart virtues are, because she's going to be on one of our shows later in February, and we'll be announcing all of our February guests that are be coming in. And so I would just want to thank you all for being here. And today I'm here to talk to you about HeartMonics. Now, HeartMonics harmonizes life. And so first I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, but I'm first going to bring in Lynn Hawkins and have her speak to you a little bit about what we have going on here. She's going to be hosting this, and I'm just going to turn it over to her right now. So thank you all for being here.
Well, thank you, Cynthia. I am Velyn Hawkins, and I am the founder of the P3 Academy of Social Entrepreneurship. And I am so glad that you're here with us this evening, because our show tonight is on HeartMonics. And our show featured speaker is the wonderful Cynthia Gardner O'Neill. Now, Cynthia and I started working together not too very long ago, and one of the things that both of us recognized was that there was a connection, and it was a heart connection. We had the same heart of inspiring and empowering not only small business owners, but people around what the heart is all about and how you can bring your heart into everything that you do and everything that you are. And tonight, I'm so excited because we've also got our friend Sarah Rockwell here. And we're going to bring Sarah into the conversation, but right now, I want to tell you a little bit about Cynthia. She's a bioacoustic scientist. She has studied numerous modalities and certified in numerous modalities, healing modalities. And she is an entrepreneur, has been an entrepreneur for most of her adult life. She inspires me, and I'm sure tonight with what she brings to this audience, she's going to inspire you. So right now she is the founder of the Center for Loving Consciousness. She resides in the beautiful mountains of Colorado. And as creator of HeartMonics, you're going to hear some amazing things tonight. You think, if you've heard Cynthia talk about HeartMonics to you, to us, to share in. So, hi, Cynthia.
Hi.
This party started.
Yeah, well, thank you for starting it out the way you did. And absolutely, it's really important for people to understand how we create relationships. And you just put that right out there, that we were drawn to one another because of our hearts. And, just about HeartMonics is, a lot of people say to me, because I'm very heart orientated in everything that I do. I speak about loving consciousness. I am the founder of the Center for Loving Consciousness. I'm putting together a wellness network where we certify wellness providers in loving consciousness. And because I think it's a very important component of our health and well-being, and should be the core of every single business, not only, in wellness, but also every single business, the heart of business. And so from having that that heartfelt dream, that my heart's desire to make a difference in this world, to bring more heart into people's lives and help them understand what the heart is all about, I developed HeartMonics. And it's about the harmonics of the heart. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that shortly, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. Then I'll tell you about what HeartMonics is, and what is the #1 killer disease of humanity, as well as the #1 killer of humanity. Okay? What does it mean to get out of your head and into your heart? And can HeartMonics create ultimate wellness? And then we're going to end this up with what is the agreement? Because the agreement is something that's really profound, that has come through my heart, you know, through that divine source that has provided me with a very simple agreement for us all to take our lives to a whole nother level. And so I'm just going to begin with a little bit about my story. And, you know, I live a life of ultimate wellness. I've been living in the mountains of Colorado for, oh gosh, you know, since I was just turned 17. And the reason why I live in the mountains of Colorado is because of my father, you know, but he died when I was 7. And he was a paleontologist, geologist. And, you know, we were always out in nature. And we would go fly fishing and camping and all those things during, you know, the years of, you know, from my birth until I was 7 years old. So those are some major times when we are sponges and we're taking in all that love and all that we're experiencing. And so, you know, I just thank God for having that experience of being in nature. And I really had a lot to do with what happened with my heart. So, you know, I have been amazed by the human body and its agility to overcome obstacles and do whatever I ask of it. You know, this became my adventure to wellness as I became certified, licensed, trained, and educated as an expert in the field of energy wellness. My education ranged from massage therapy to energy psychology to quantum physics. I played around with some epigenetics. I am a complementary and alternative medicine provider and expert. And as Lynn said earlier, but I'm a bioacoustic and energy informatic research scientist. And what that means is I have studied with some people such as Sherry Edwards in bioacoustics and learned from them and about bioacoustics, which is the biosounds of the body. And what we do is we find out more about what's going on with people and their biosounds. And so I do research around that and turn it into their research facility so we can find out more about who we are and how the biosounds work in the body. And that's one of the things I love to work with is the sound of our voice, which I teach a lot about, which has a lot to do with our heart also. And, you know, in fact, you know, I had so much expertise because of all the certifications and licensings and trainings and education that when I went to school to get my major in alternative medicine, I bypassed 2 years and I received a scholarship for my accomplishments. And on top of those accomplishments, I have developed and designed my own holistic health care center in the destination resort of Breckenridge, Colorado. And it was a very successful business, and so it gave me the opportunity. I was asked to develop and design a 5-star resort spa in Breckenridge, and you know, and then after a few years later, I also continued on as the director of the spa. A few years later, then I resigned and decided there was still more that I was here to do. I was really being called to do something more. And my heart was always directing me to fulfill my life's purpose. So I went back to learning more techniques and training to be an expert in the health and wellness field, especially about the heart, because I was having these incredible experiences. And I had ever since I was a young child, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that. And so I've been living this amazing life and very, very healthy, and but you know, it hasn't always been that way. My father died when I was 7, And shortly thereafter, my mother remarried a man who sexually abused me, raped me, and physically abused me along with my sister, my brother, and my mom for almost 5 years. And, during this time, I found myself creating illness in order to protect myself from this horrible experience. My illnesses didn't always keep me safe. So the sicker I made myself, the sicker I was, the safer I felt. In fact, at one time, I was so sick that I was paralyzed for a short time, and no one, not even the doctors, could figure out, why I was, going through this. And during this time, I suffered from pneumonia, bronchitis, and strep. And in fact, it was the strep that was in my blood and bones that paralyzed me. So then there was a day when I was sitting on the couch in my living room, and I heard a glass shatter in the sink in the kitchen. And I looked in, and in the doorway, I saw this man with his hands wrapped around my mother's neck, with her body pinned up against the wall, with her feet dangling, and I couldn't take it anymore. I just really, just seeing that again and again and again, I couldn't take it anymore. And I walked into the kitchen with my fist clenched, and I told him to put my mother down and to leave, or I was going to call the police. Well, it didn't stop there. Not at all, not in that moment. But in that moment, there was something inside of me that just told me there was something more in life. And that's when, after that, I just had that, I was so empowered with just the experience of knowing that I could really stand up for myself, and that I didn't have to live this way anymore. And I didn't have to live and be a victim of circumstances. So I realized that I could change my life. And shortly thereafter, I moved out of the house at the young age of 16, and I moved to the mountains of Colorado. So from there, when I moved to the mountains of Colorado, it was amazing how my whole body changed. The experience I was having with it. I was healthier, I was happier, and that was a whole new experience for me. And the reason what gave me the opportunity to leave the situation I was in is because I also had an experience with my father. Even though he died when I was 7, I still had experiences with him. I had a totally different relationship, and it was with my heart. So I'm an empath. I'm also known as a clairsentient, and that means I can connect with people who I say transitioned into the energy of life. So I always wanted to know, why did I have these experiences and other people didn't? So I really went out to find out how to explain these experiences that I was having. And I knew that it was all about my heart. I knew it was the heart that was connecting and having this experience. So that's why I've come to this place in developing HeartMonics. Now, Lynn, when you met me, what was it that really brought your attention to all that I was speaking about and learning about, that had you come in and connect and really reach out with me?
Well, Cynthia, it was actually two things for me. I have been most of my career in left brain, analytical, process, systems, all of those things I've had in my life, which have helped me to actually build a very successful career in commercial real estate. And doing my business, however, I found that my right brain feminine beauty was actually trying to blossom, and in its attempts to show itself and just emerge as we normally would, as humans do. I mean, that's what we do. We start as a baby and we grow and emerge into, if you are fortunate enough to pay attention, into who you were actually born pre-birth to be. And I say that I know that you're going to touch on that a little more, but what actually drew me to you, what actually attracted me to you was just the total sense of authenticity, one thing. But the other was a determination that you were going to figure out how to bring this heart conversation to the world. And I watched you um, trying to find the words to put to this, to actually discovering, very much like I did, I've got it. Harmonize your life, and then it developed from there into HeartMonics as it is today. And not only is it about harmonizing your life, it truly is about harmonizing your business, and it is about bringing your heart up and out of yourself to be a part of life as we live it. And I know, that might even be a little confusing to some people who think, well, I'm a heart-centered person, I'm purpose-driven. But there's a difference in that as being a conscious activity versus that as being a heart-led activity where you actually are merging with your consciousness, and then, it's a different story. It really is. It's a different conversation. And when I saw that happening in you, and we started having different conversations, it really spoke to me, because I am one of those who saw the emerging that was happening with me. And I knew that it was me being in my heart versus times when I was not. And my thinking was, I prefer to stay in my heart. That's where I am at peace. That's where I am able to do things with more ease and grace and joy. And I really felt like I was living in the light of Source, the light of God. And so being able to even have those kinds of conversations with you kind of brought us even closer together. And today we've got a beautiful joint venture child that we have birthed and are bringing through its infancy. And it's really been amazing to see what the heart side of things can look like versus the striving side and the side of being in struggle and lack and even just being in your head. I remember, and it's been quite a while, one of the first things that you told me was, Lynn, you got to get out of your head and get into your heart, because your heart is much wiser. And I can't tell you the number of times that has truly come back and echoed in my ears to hear in my head and my heart, and really helped me to stay centered and moving forward in the light and grace and joy and peace and love. So yeah, thank you for that.
Sure, and I appreciate you coming in and sharing that with everybody, because in your businesses, in your family, and everything that you do, your heart is actually what connects you with all of that. Love is the #1 motivator of humanity. And, I ask people, what gets you up in the morning? And usually, no one ever says love. No one ever says that. They always say, oh, my family, my business, or, I got to do this or that. I mean, but they never say, love motivates me to get up in the morning. But everything that motivates you to get up in the morning is based in love. What's in your heart? It's what your heart's desiring to support, to take care of, to nurture, to nourish, all those kind of things, what brings you into having a relationship with something. And one of the things I bring up about HeartMonics is really, when it comes down to love, love, I believe, creates all life through its desire for experience. And we cannot have an experience in life without relationship to something or someone. So in that, about experience, what is the experience with our heart? So what is HeartMonics all about? Well, it's the harmonics of the heart. Okay, the heartbeat is the signature sound of you. That's a frequency, okay? And in fact, it's every frequency, you know, because experiences are a frequency. You know, they're information coming in, light, all those kind of things. So every experience you've ever had is a part of your heartbeat. But the first cell upon your conception is the embryonic heart cell. And then there are more cells made, but all those cells that are made are to make up the heart first. And your heartbeat is the first thing that tells us that you're there. And, you know, so I'm going to talk about that heartbeat being the signature sound of you. You know, it's the harmonics of who you are. And so here's a little bit of research that was done. And this might help support some people in understanding this a little bit. And so there was a researcher named Daniel Winter in conjunction with the Institute of Heart Math. And they've been mapping the electrical and sonic links between the cardiac electricities and mental processes, emotions, and brain electricities, okay? So Winter is especially interested, he was especially interested in the relationship between DNA programming and the immune health, okay? And so you'll hear me bring in a lot of information about what I was experiencing when I was a kid being abused and what I had to do to protect myself and what it had to do with my heart and being healthy today. So Winter and the Institute of Heart Math got together a research group which they connected to a spectrum analysis EKG test on subjects who were practiced in sending out conscious love. They made significant discoveries, okay? Winter states, when love was being sent to someone, the spectrum analysis of the EKG revealed a ratio between the frequency peaks of 1.618. Now, this is a frequency, and many of you who are scientists, or I know we have a couple physicists out there on this show here, you know, the 1.618. So we'll talk about what that is. This frequency is the most efficient ratio known for the transfer of energy between scales. All right, when energy is phase locked with this ratio, it cascades between octaves without losing momentum or memory of itself. Okay? The fractal design of the heart uses this principle to send energy cascading down the harmonic series to the DNA. All right. And I have some pictures I'm going to try to bring up here too to help you kind of visualize it and see more of what I'm speaking of here. So the geometry of these waves looks exactly...
Before you actually go into this, I want to make sure that I understand this.
Okay, great, thank you.
So what you're saying is that the heart is the mechanism that communicates with DNA. On that cellular level, DNA, the heart actually is what communicates with DNA.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. You can hear a little bit more. Thank you.
That speaks volumes to me, especially, you know, now that we have heard the truth that the DNA is yours, you got it, no changing it. That is the truth of the falseness of that statement. DNA actually can be impacted by the heart messages, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Amazing.
So, yeah, the geometry of these waves, okay, looks exactly like the DNA as viewed from the top. And I have some pictures, so we're going to try to show some of these. So the main point here is that the 1.618 is also the ratio of the DNA structure and is the only ratio that allows complete information or geometry to cascade down the harmonic series without loss of power or geometry. So we're just talking about it keeps the pattern of the geometric pattern. So speak to a little more to this. So loving consciousness or loving causes, the love causes the coherence and ratio necessary to send energy up and down the harmonic series from the higher organizational dimensions down to the DNA. Okay? In a sense, no direction radiates to the DNA. No directions radiate to the DNA and immune system from the heart, unless there is a conscious link up to the core of one's being. State of your being, let it be love. This is one of my main things that I put out there. So we're going to learn a little bit more about that, how to do that. By loving and caring, it is possible to reprogram and empower the DNA with the intelligence of working for the whole from the perspective of higher electrical energy dimensions. So perspective, we're going to be talking about that. That's my module 1 about changing your perspective or perception. So the implications of the research are profound. By sending coherent heart frequencies of conscious love and care, people can enter into the DNA and reprogram and empower it to improve immune system and cellular health. Universal love embraces, protects, nurtures, and communicates to the DNA to unfold its blueprint. This communication cascades on frequency harmonics of the golden mean spiral. That's in all of nature and all of life. Only through sincere love and care from the core of being in the heart can we enter into God's design and co-create at the holographic level of the DNA. The heart is the protective safety valve. This is very different from the genetic engineering as we know it now, all right, which is only tinkering with the components of the gene on the physical level. So right there, that's some science that I brought in, and we get Sarah on here. I remember I was reading this to Sarah, and Sarah asked me, can you break that down a little bit better so people can understand that maybe a little bit more? And since I have both of you here, what kind of questions do you have, or what kind of insight can you give us on what you understand about what I just, educated and talked about right there in that science that I found? Either one of you.
Well, for me, it actually opens up the whole concept that consciousness, that's the mind, conscious and subconscious, connecting with the heart, we really do. I mean, that's the formula for self-healing. That's the formula for bringing about immediate peace. That's the formula for curing what might be ailing anyone. I'm not saying don't go to the doctor or anything like that, but I am certainly saying examine what it is that your heart is telling your body. And we know the physical body has always been said to be able to heal itself. We have all of that within us. But the question has also always been, how do we get that to happen? And so now you're sharing with us the formula for allowing that, for helping that to happen.
Yeah.
And that's what I got out of it.
Sarah, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, I do. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, I think the main point is how important love is.
Yeah.
Oftentimes we get stuck in thinking about love from a mind perspective. Is it good for me? Is it bad for me? Or we judge our relationships and stuff like that. But what in this instance I think Cynthia is referring to is that love is all powerful. And by just grabbing and embracing that love, you can heal yourself and change your DNA so that you can live a healthier life.
And I love that perspective, and it made me actually think about something else that most people actually go through the place of being, you mentioned it, in your head. I love so-and-so and they hurt me, and so my heart is now closed. I did something and somebody chastised me, and now my heart is closed. I'm trying, my desire is to do all the right things, but I keep running into brick walls everywhere. And what is not realized is that the heart being shut off actually allows those obstacles to come in front of you.
Yes.
And you know, because you're not in peace, you're up in your head, you're wondering, what did I do? Why is this happening? So you're in a state of what HeartMat teaches, coherence or incoherence.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're out of coherence, you actually, I mean, even the Bible talks about, you know, be in one accord and your path will be smooth. And when you're not, what do you got? You've got that resistance going on. And it's the same thing with allowing your heart to come into and play into what it is that you're doing, what it is that you say to people, all of that. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to share another story and some research that was done that can really bring this home. First, I'm going to just kind of show everybody, because a lot of people might be thinking, okay, what is the golden mean? So I'm just going to pull up, see if I can share my...
Cynthia,
yes.
what is the golden mean?
So, can you see my desktop?
Yes, I can.
Okay, we're looking down inside there. What it talked about, looking down inside the spiral of the golden mean of the ratio. So I'm going to pull up some different things here. So here's your, you know, there's DNA spiral.
Ah.
What I was showing you was, you know, looking down inside.
Ah.
And the frequency of 1.618, okay, creates these spirals. All, you know, you find them all over in life. So here's the spiral of shell. Let's see if I can get that to come up. There we go. And one more, because this is, you know, here's the out there in the universe, and this is a cabbage right here. So you see it automatically, you know, in all kinds of things in nature and in life.
It really is. I'm going to start paying attention to that because it truly is in so many things. I mean, even looking at an feather. There's circles in the center of the feather, and then the way that the feather prongs come out,
Yeah.
there's circular motion too. I mean, the spiral really is in so much.
So, and since we're right there, and I am going to be showing, can you see, you can just see me, or can you see my...
I see you right now.
Okay. So what I'm going to show everybody, here's what really was fascinating to me. Because, you know, in business, we talk about the vortex. And with our group, with Directions University, where we're learning a way to how we can create a vortex of bringing in our business into really being successful and what that means. And so one of the things I wanted to present in one of our classes is about that vortex and how it's in all of life. Now, when I talk about Harmonics and having that frequency within our hearts, this is what we find. Okay, I'm going to talk about this as I show this next group of pictures. Now, can you guys see my...
Yes.
Okay, right here, this is inside a heart. You see the spiraling vortexes in here? That's that golden mean. When the blood comes into the heart, it's constantly having this motion. And even with the breath, we also have the the striations of the muscles in the heart are in that same vortex and motion within the heart.
Is there any way you can make your pictures a little bit bigger?
Yeah, no, this is
Okay.
about all I
Okay.
can do right now.
Okay.
And so, and at the, you know, when someone says, you know, I'm going to, where's the song? I'm going to love you through till the bottom of my, through the bottom of my heart, or whatever. At the bottom of the heart is called the vortex cordis, right here at the bottom of the heart.
Oh my goodness.
And of course, we have the torus. So you say, you know, we have, the heart is 60 times more amplified than any part of our body. It is 5,000 times more electromagnetic than any part of our body. So what's going out into the world that's from your heart is coming back to you 100 times plus. And that's what's important about the state of your being. Let it be love. Because what you're putting out, you're getting back. So that's how Sarah Rockwell and Lynn Hawkins, you know, the three of us that are here, what brought us together is our connection in our heart. And I have a really great video on HeartMonics.org that talks about, from the Institute of Heart Math, about how our hearts work with one another. And I'm going to bring my screen back here. There we go. And so to have a little more understanding about how that works, there was a study done on the Tibetan monks that are in that were incarcerated and tortured and everything by the Chinese. Now, during that time that the Tibetan monks were there and being tortured and everything, the Chinese ended up feeling as if they were being tortured because the Tibetan monks were so compassionate still with these, you know, with the Chinese, even after they've been punishing them and doing all kinds of terrible things to them. And many of them died there. The Chinese finally released whoever was, you know, well enough, or they hadn't, you know, broken them down and killed them and everything, and let them go. And so these Tibetan monks now are living beyond their hundreds, and they're vibrant, and they're healthy, and they're youthful. And so what happened is they decided, oh my God, how after all these years and they're living in their hundreds, after going through all this trauma, okay, of being incarcerated and beaten and tortured and everything, that they're able to live so happily, so compassionately. And so they decided to do these studies on them, physical studies, and find out what's going on inside their bodies. Well, they ended up finding out through these studies that they are still making stem cells. Now, we're told that we stop making stem cells as we get older. The reason why we stop making stem cells is because we put ourselves under stress. What's in our heart is what also, as we learned earlier, the harmonics of the heart, okay, are also what transforms DNA. So if we are in a place of compassion and love for each other, we continue to make stem cells. And that renews the rest of our cells. Because we renew, our body renews, you know, every 7 years, but the heart, it takes 20 years for the heart to completely renew. But, you know, so anyways, these Tibetan monks, they also, there was all kinds of doctors and researchers and everything there, but also the Dalai Lama was there. And he asked one of the Tibetan monks, what was the hardest thing you went through while you were there, you know, during that time? And one of them, the monk replied, my greatest fear was that I would lose compassion for my enemy. Lose compassion for my enemy. We heal through our compassion. So, you know, a lot of people come to me and they're asking me to back up all these causes. And many of these causes that are out there are actually from a level of consciousness of which the cause that they're fighting was created. So even the word fighting is a lower consciousness. And so, Mother Teresa, I love what she says. She goes, if you're going to have an anti-war rally, I won't be there. But if you have a peace rally, you can count me in. Now, Einstein said, we cannot resolve a problem at the level of consciousness in which it was created. So think about all these problems that you're having, whether it's with your wellness, whether it's with a relationship in your business or whatever it is. If you're going in with worry, doubt, fear, guilt, shame, I call them the 8 demons that separate you from your love: resentment, jealousy, fear, judgment, all those things. I mean, they're there for a reason. They come in for a reason to teach us a lesson. But don't stay there. Don't stay there in those kind of, in the experience. Learn from it. Have an experience with it, but move on. And that's going to lead into the agreement at the end of this, what we're here to do and how we can transform that. But Harmonics, when you're in your heart state of your being, let it be love. Now, how can we stay there? Now, the #1 killer disease of humanity is heart disease. And more people live with heart disease than any disease put to, all the disease, AIDS or even cancer put together. But did you know that the heart is the central communication center for every single one of your cells? Every single one of your cells. Your heart communicates with every single one of your cells. Now, what does that mean? Well, cancer. This is what we mostly hear about, and you never hear about heart disease very rarely, because actually when you go, you have the heart attack, gone. But the thing is cancer is the disease of a cell. Now, I feel if we solve the issues of the heart, we could solve all dis-ease. And so I really want you to think about, so here's what's going on in our culture. Here in the United States, as far as we have, the foundations to raise money for heart disease, for cancer. And actually, cancer is second to, as in numbers of deaths for humanity, and heart disease is #1. But in raising money, to learn more about the heart, which again, heart disease is the #1 killer disease of humanity. Even if you put all of the, the diseases together, it kills more people than it does cancer or anything else. The foundations we have, I think it was 264 million a year is raised for cancer. It's the #1 disease that money is raised for. Heart disease is the 4th in line for the amount of money that's raised for heart disease. And it was around 92 million per year. 264 million raised for cancer, and 92 million raised, somewhere right around there, for heart disease. And really, your heart is the central communication center for every single cell. So I really want to bring that out there. So we want to resolve some of our problems. Let's resolve them at a higher level of consciousness. Let's go to our hearts. Let's start being more compassionate with each other. When it comes to us going into a place of judgment, when I said one of the things I was going to tell you is the #1 killer of humanity is judgment. Is humans killing humans. And why we kill each other is because we judge one another. Okay? We create separation from each other. So I want you to think about that. What happens when you go to your heart? So HeartMonics, I have 5 levels of consciousness with HeartMonics that I take you through. The first one is awareness, being aware of how powerful your heart is and what it is. it's 60 times more amplified than any part of your body, than even your brain. And in fact, everything starts in the heart and then goes to the brain. And then it's 5,000 times more electromagnetic. And then it's the central communication center of every single one of your cells. All right? So become aware of that. And then, then it's going to bring in more, so you're going to want to have some self-awareness, okay? So in that first level is awareness, and then some self-awareness. And then when you get that awareness, which I teach in there around perception, because your perception is what determines how you feel about your experience, okay? And then, so the next level we go to is knowledge. You're going to, once you become aware of how important your heart is to your life, you're going to want to have more knowledge about your heart. And that's why I'm sharing this information with you. So, about teaching you all about your heart, all these great things, just like I shared with you about the harmonics of the heart. And the next thing is, once you have knowledge, you're going to want to know more about your self-knowledge. Okay, how you're working, how that knowledge has to do with you personally. Okay, and then the next level is understanding. So you have that understanding, and this is where, in a little bit, we're going to introduce you to Sarah. We haven't even completely told you about her, but I'm going to bring her in this component as soon as I tell you the 5 levels about understanding yourself, and she teaches heart virtues, and it really helps you understand your heart and who you are. So you have understanding, and then you have your self-understanding, and heart virtues helps you get that understanding. The next level after that is acceptance. When you have this awareness, and then you have the knowledge, and then you have the understanding, you begin to accept yourself and others for exactly who you are and who they are. You also know what is yours and what is someone else's. And then when that happens, love, self-love, the state of your being is love. And you don't take things personally, and you begin to empower yourself. Love is a power, not a process. Love is what motivates all human beings. In fact, when you're feeling alone or separated from it, that's love pain. You're never, Terry Talltree, they'll be on here, I do believe it's next week, and we'll be, again, telling you about all that we have coming up. They are How to Live on Purpose. And Terry said to me when I was talking about being separated from love, she said, we're really not separated from love. We're just unaware of our connection to it, always, always. So those are the 5 levels. And so you guys got any questions about any of this that I've just been sharing? You guys are all muted.
I just want to say that I am so clear about the 5 levels of consciousness involved in HeartMonics. And going through this, every time that I actually hear you explain it, it resonates even more in really identifying the stages of coming to the truth of who we are, and that truth being love. I like the way that you always take it back to the beginning and talk about love being the first cell in the heart. Love created the first cell, which was the heart cell, and then you say, wait, I wrote it down.
Yeah, well,
because it's just that love creates all life through its desire for relationship. And that's what we as individuals strive for, the best, highest and best good relationship with ourselves. And we have to have that first before we can actually develop those types of strong relationships with others. And it's the whole, put your oxygen mask on first, and then you're able to help someone else. But it's even more than that, because it comes to a place of awareness that just opens up so much in the way of healing. And you talked about that, the coming to understanding. And I just would love for you and Sarah to talk about the healing that happens in those stages.
Yeah. There we go. I'm still open there. Well, in understanding, before we move up to understanding, first I want to talk a little bit about that first stage of awareness. And since I'm already adding, giving some knowledge here, in the first stage of awareness, one of the things I talked about was, about perception. Perception is so important for us to understand whether we are, left brain, or what our brain dominance is, and to take ourselves into a place, into our heart, which creates a whole brain balance. And whole brain balance really is when we're really in our heart and brain, the body, heart, and soul. I really believe that when we get those all in a balance, because one cannot be here without the other, when we get them all in balance, I believe it's like a divine chiropractic adjustment. When we come into balance, it's like that spiraling of the DNA, right down the center. And it's just really amazing, when it comes down to how we receive information. So what I expressed to you was love creates all life through its desire for experience. Now, experience is about having relationships and all those kind of things. But our perception within our experience is actually what also has a lot to do with how we react or how we respond with our emotions and things like that. So with perception can be, when you have, I have a note here that I made myself, so I'm going to pull that up. So your perception is affected by your past experiences, okay? So to have the experience you're having, you're coming from past experiences, past knowledge, and your belief systems, your relationships, education, and of course your state of being that you're in. So when you have an experience, you have this, you're receiving in whatever place that you are within your left or right brain or whole brain balance, or in your heart, and that determines how you're going to react or respond to that moment. If you're going to be state of your being, let it be love. So two people are both doing a laboring job. Same exact job. One of them is bitching and moaning and groaning about the job that he's doing. Hey, his state of being isn't love, is it? What was his perception? His perception of this job, of this experience he's having, is completely different than the other guy he's working with. The other guy is loving it. He's just enjoying. He's so happy and grateful for what he already has, that he has a job. They're both doing the same thing. How come they're both having this different experience with the same job? So even on my website, HeartMonics.org, when you go to body, I have a little woman spinning around there, so you can look and determine, what you're seeing there, to find out whether you're left or right brain, dominant in your brain dominance, because it determines how you receive information. The reason why I learned about this is from bioacoustics, because bioacoustics, the sound of your voice can tell the state of your health. And in order for us to provide tones or frequencies to harmonize the body, we have to find out how people receive that information, whether they're left brain or right brain, whether they can go into a whole brain balance. So I teach about that, and I teach about voice profiling and things like that, which are really important to who we are. I can't go into the details now, but I just want to put that into perception. That's the first layer, the first module of HeartMonics. So we've already received some knowledge and information here. So I'm going to move on to understanding. And I've asked Sarah to be here today to teach us about the heart virtues. She's going to be on our show because this is really an important place. And Sarah, can you introduce yourself and tell people about the heart virtues and what you're here to teach, and how that really can help you with who you are and your heart. And then I will also chime in with, because she did my heart virtue, and it changed everything for me to actually be able to express myself, and that's part of my heart virtue. So, and you need to unmute yourself there. There you go. Great.
Yes, my name is Sarah Rockwell. I'm a spiritual coach and a heart virtue expert. And how I got interested in being a heart virtue expert was because I felt that I really wasn't connected to my heart. And that came about for many reasons, which I'll explain when I come on the show later. But I felt that there was more to life. And a heart virtue is something that you are so committed to that you would die for. But because of the way we are socially cultured, which was spoken to at length last week by the EQ guy, I'm not sure what his name was, I forgot.
Matt Pearlstein?
Yes.
Yeah.
But the interesting part, if there's something that you're so committed to that you would die for, but you don't know what it is, then it leaves you feeling very empty. Because you don't know. You don't know why you behave a certain way. You don't know why you believe a certain way. You don't know why you value things. But by learning what your heart virtue is, there becomes great clarity. And then you understand where your values are, or you can decide what you do value, what you do believe, and what actions you're going to take to have a very fulfilling life. You create that life for yourself. So it's coming from a very different point. Now I'm committed to passion, intimate connection, and aliveness. And the interesting part to me is that I was in a deep depression after losing many people when I started to learn about heart virtues. And then it became very clear to me how deep my depression was because I didn't have the passion, I didn't have the aliveness, and I didn't have the intimate connection in my life. So then I understood why I went through what I did. So it really gives you clarity about your life and how to live your life. And you understand why and what you're committed to. And you've lost it, you lose it the minute you're born. You know, how your caretakers take care of you, how you interact with your brothers and sisters, mother and father, then it's how you're treated in school, it's how you interact with your peers, then you go into a work environment. So it's totally cultured out of you and you lose it. So it's a big blind spot in your life. And there has not been one person who has guessed what their heart virtue is before they've gone through the process of the heart virtue.
Wow.
And discovered what it is.
Wow. Well, you know, my heart virtue, when Sarah took me through that whole process, was amazing because, and so I had posted it, you know, as I am committed to freedom, truth, and self-expression. And when I said that, you know, because words carry frequency, and if they're the frequency of your heart, that totally resonate with you, they're the virtues of your heart. Oh my gosh, it did something. You know, there was that spiraling going on, and that vortex. It was like, oh my gosh, I'm committed to freedom, truth, and self-expression, and here I am. You know, after I learned that heart virtue is really what helped me really start speaking up and really feeling comfortable with myself. I really felt I am in my heart. I know who I am. I know my truth. And you know, my truth is, I believe we are all love. We come from love as love. And therefore, that's why, you know, I believe in this world. When I'm a wilderness outfitter during the summer times here in Colorado, and I take people on wilderness experiences so that you can get out there in the unconditional love of nature, because nature is truly the remedy for wellness. You get out there and you let go of what interferes, your inner fears, with who you are. And you're able to go in there and really connect with your heart and start feeling again. No feeling, no healing. You definitely got to feel. We learned that from last week. And if you haven't watched our show on the emotional intelligence that we had with Matt Pearlstein, and Sarah had just mentioned that, please go watch that. That was a very emotional, wonderful experience that we all had together, and learned more about that energy in motion that comes from our heart. And of course, it's in balance. Once we, the feeling and thinking really help. We feel first before we think, but each one expresses, what it needs to in order for us to be who we are and have the experiences that we have. So, being out in nature, one morning I remember waking up and I'm looking out at all this beauty and I'm thinking, I co-create this. I co-create this. And guess what? Every single one of you do too. Your heartbeat is the signature sound of you. What you have in your heart is going out not only, we can measure it going out 60 times more than any part of our body. But guess what? There's so much more there that we don't measure. I mean, we maybe experience 1% of what is. There's 99% of infinite possibilities out there. Infinite. But if you go into it with a loving place, the state of your being love, and knowing that you are co-creators of this beauty, because, I learned from the harmonics, okay, of the heart, from sound creates form. There's cymatics that shows that all the time. I show that in my modules. I go through how sound creates form, how the sound of our voice, tells the state of our health. Our heartbeats, the signature sound of our heartbeats, what that's creating. It's creating you. Every experience, everything that's part of you. But also, we come here to have a human experience, and that experience is what contributes to us raising our consciousness. And we would not have a pattern, okay, patterns in life. We would not have the golden mean, because actually it is a frequency of love. And it's the thread of life that sews all the patterns of life together. Masaru Emoto, he's proven that through the healing powers of water, where he takes the water and he freezes it. All right, so if it's a polluted, water, he'll freeze it, put it underneath a microscope, and you look at the water molecule, and there's no shape or form to it. It's just muck, okay? It's negativity. It's chaos. It's just, there's just nothing there. There's no form. But then he introduces a beautiful sound or love or a higher frequency to it, and it transforms it into a beautiful crystal. Beautiful patterns. And the pattern, what sews that pattern or creates that pattern, is the frequency of love. We wouldn't have the round shape of the world if we didn't have love.
Love created. Love is source. Source is love.
Well,
creating.
Yeah, I believe it's the balance. We have love plus light equals life. Experience, love creates all life through its desire for experience. Experience is the light. It's the information, it's the education that we're here to have. And that's where, one cannot be without the other. We have, a lot of people say to me, oh, there's good and there's bad and the challenges and all this stuff, but, we live in duality, the polarity, the bipolar. Well, really, we live in a world of harmony. We just choose to pick one side or the other. It's a choice.
Mm-hmm.
So
choose harmony.
What's that?
I said, I choose harmony. And that just takes me to, and looking at the time, we have got so much for our audience to look forward to. And in that, coming back to join us every week, as we will be here on Thursday evenings, 5 p.m. Pacific and 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And we've got some of my favorite people coming up on next week's show. While we've got Sarah, I want to acknowledge her and thank her so much for being here. I'm so looking forward to connecting with you on February 19th when we're back to actually focus on heart virtue. But next week, I want our audience to know, next week we have Terry and Chief Robert Taltree. And they teach the Native American wisdom. They're going to share not just the Native American wisdom of the medicine wheel, but they're going to talk about heart. They're going to talk about what it means from the wisdom of the elders to live in your heart, to express your heart, and to carry the space of your heart. You know, when you were showing some of the pictures, especially the one of the person, and you saw all the spirals around them, it reminded me of the picture that we see on occasion of the auric field, the aura. And we know that a person who is living in their heart actually has an expanded auric field. And if you've ever seen somebody walk into a room and didn't say anything, didn't really do anything outrageous yet, heads turned and people noticed, and you know, it was like they were walking in and the lights turned up brighter. It is that kind of stuff that we, through the adventures of the heart and explaining some of the mysteries of the heart, are going to share with our audience. And I'm just so excited about what's to come. I've just given you a taste of some of the folks that are coming. You heard about Matt Pearlstein from last week. He will be back on a future show. And we've got so many more wonderful people to help to take us through more adventures of the heart and explain some of the mysteries of the heart. Now, it's my heart's desire that you have gotten a lot out of what Cynthia shared with us about HeartMonics. And Cynthia, I'd be remiss to even think about closing out tonight's show without asking you, what is it that you want our audience to walk away with as their parting thought?
Well, I wanted to end with what the agreement is. And the agreement is to receive all life has to give. That's the good, the bad, the challenges, the ease. All life has to give. Receive it. And to transform it into something even better. Why? Because you can. And you've learned this, you know, from just hearing just I mean, we've just barely touched on what, you know, HeartMonics is about. And I bring in so much more. You know, we can only come up with, you know, all that we do. So the big thing that I am going to leave you with right now is to breathe deep into your heart and love yourself more today than you did yesterday. Because that breath oxygenates that heart, and that heart will express out into the world.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sarah, for being here with us today, for interjecting. And Cynthia, that was just amazing. And I'm so grateful to be here to share my perspective from one who is growing more into her heart daily and just seeing the expansiveness of heart. Because had someone asked me a few years ago, are you living in your heart? I could have said yes. However, now it's even more. And so, like Cynthia said, breathe deep into your heart and join us again here next week. Same place, same station. My name is Vlyn Hawkins. I'm here with my co-host Cynthia Gardner O'Neill and our guest Sarah Rockwell. And we just thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, everyone.
See you next